First of all, hi everyone, I'm Hina, and a warm welcome to all of you, our dear judges, our pitching founders, and all the attendees today to join us for the first RISD pitch event. And today, my partner, Rebecca, together we will host this event for you.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm an Illustration 2001 alumni, and we are so excited to have everybody here. And with that, let's introduce our judges and panelists. Ludwig, would you like to go first?
I guess, sure. Hey, thanks so much for having me. My name is Ludwig Schultz. I'm managing partner of a venture capital fund called Alumni Ventures Group. I specifically manage two funds, Waterman Ventures and Fission Ventures. Waterman is, and I think particularly relevant, includes the Brown community and of course the RISD community as sort of sister, sibling, kind of neighboring schools in essence. So very pleased to be joining. My background is I'm a former founder of a company in the mobile payment space. I was previous to that a GM at a Fortune 100 company, a venture capitalist way back when, also in the .com days, and I started my career at Boston Consulting Group, and I have degrees from Columbia and from Brown. But very pleased to be here with you all today. Thanks.
Thank you. So Soaib, please go and introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Hina. Great to be here. My name's Soaib. I'm a RISD grad, 2011 ID. My background, very quickly, spent the last about 12 years between India and the US, working with startups on both sides. On to my third startup right now, a company called Plaza. But I've also spent the last 6 years in venture capital. I was a partner with one of India's largest corporate VC funds. So really happy to be here to give back to the community and be part of this.
Wonderful.
And hi, my name is Maureen Taylor, and co-founder of Snp Communications. We've been around for a long time, helping leaders communicate. We focus on founders, and then as they start growing and have a few enterprise. Communication is key to motivating. Aristotle's my first boyfriend. There you go. And nice to be here. Big fan of RISD since I was a little girl.
Wonderful. So great to have you here. Louise. Louise, please introduce yourself.
And she might be on mute.
There we go. That's better. I'm still getting the hang of this everyday Zooming. And as you can see, my hair is longer than the photo. The world has changed in the last, so I'm also constantly changing. I'm an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur. I graduated from Caltech and then UCLA with my MBA, went into management consulting, and then built 4 companies. Nowadays, I'm a mentor, coach to startups, and angel investor, and just completing my first term as chair of a new venture by the Girl Scouts of America called Circle Around, which is a digital media site for adult women. It's an extension of their brand. So check out Circle Around. Looking forward to, I love doing these pitches and meeting new entrepreneurs. So looking forward to it. Thank you very much for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for joining us.
So let's meet the people presenting. Sloan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, my pleasure. Really happy to be part of this. I think it's an important event for the RISD community. It's so exciting. So, yeah, my name is Sloan Culper. I was a ID master student about 14 years ago. I can't believe that. That's crazy. But I previously to that, I studied at MIT, and then after RISD, I ended up in Asia. I was in developing country kind of social enterprise work. So I created a couple social enterprises with friends of mine, and then really decided that medical design would be great. RISD actually has a pretty strong history of medical design, and in any case, I got my PhD at the University of Hong Kong in orthopedics and traumatology. So this is Bones, and I'll be talking about the company that we set up that was a spinoff from my PhD research. So I'll see you guys in a little bit.
Thank you so much, Sloan. Rachel, would you like to go next?
Good morning. My name is Rachel Dranoff. I think I'm the recent alum of RISD present. I graduated in 2017 from the Department of Teaching and Learning in Art and Design. And I'm here to share a very new venture that was started back in May of 2020 called Wild Child Outdoors in response to the pandemic and how it's impacting education around the world.
Thank you so much, Rachel. John, would you like to go next, please?
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, my name is John Chidianik, illustration 94. So since then, I've been involved in design and technology in kind of top to bottom, left to right, and ultimately culminating in this venture that we'll be talking about today, Blue Space. Very excited to be here. Very excited to have this event happening. So thank you so much to Danielle and Hina and Rebecca for organizing. And yeah, I think that the other thing is that I am the de facto head of the RISD Founders and Entrepreneurs Affinity Group. So we'll be this pitch event is a part of is a function of that. We're looking to develop more programming going forward. So look for more exciting opportunities to engage. And what we're looking to do is bring more resources and support and network effects to the RISD community, people who are looking to found any type of company. So we're super excited about that initiative. So thank you all very much.
Yeah, thank you so much to all the judges and the founders to make this very exciting first one up and running. So let's get started.
Sloan, I think you're first.
All right, great. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you guys today about my company called Lifespans. So our tagline here is Implant Technologies for Soft Bones. Well, what could that mean? Well, we think a lot about how to better serve elderly patients around the world. We know that as we get older, bones are more susceptible to breakage, but in fact, there is quite a bit of need for innovation in this space because there are many ongoing problems with implants. So our mission is really to improve quality of life for elderly patients around the world and focusing on orthopedic implants. So our team comes out of the University of Hong Kong, and we're kind of a mixture of people with engineering and surgical background. So this comes out of actually my PhD research. Normally I wouldn't put this slide right up ahead, but I figure because this is a community event, you guys might be a little more curious about what we're, where I came from, what we're doing. So basically I got a PhD in biomedical engineering at a medical school here in Hong Kong. And then this was the team of people from the lab as well as some industry people. Now, we've been running the company with angel investment now for about 2 years. So in terms of what we are all working on together, our team of engineers and surgeons and business people, is to address the problem of bone implant failure. So you could imagine how painful it would be if you had a broken hip or shoulder or spine, and your implant actually, broke through the bone tissue after the surgery. So you're walking around, or you have a fall, and you have that kind of injury after you had just gone in to get a repair. Well, for many people, this is a pretty common event. And one of the big reasons for this is that as you get older, bone tissue becomes softer and weaker and more susceptible for like the hard, rigid titanium and steel implants used to hold together the bones. It would be easy for that kind of hard, rigid material to break through the soft bone tissue. So quite simply, what we focus on are softer implants for soft bones. So this is actually the first implant of its type, where we have a soft, kind of spongy polymer tip. The bone screw or implant kind of wears it like a hat. And we have a series of implants that we've been developing. We're submitting for US FDA approval in June for this device. And we found that it has a lower rate of failure and is inexpensive to manufacture. So we have a couple of other devices that are kind of variations on this for other parts of the anatomy. And we are bringing those also through regulatory approval this year. So, we have to look at total addressable market. So it's a pretty healthy market, let's say. And when we talk about things like sales price and positioning against other incumbents in the marketplace, we're able to offer really excellent performance and a good profit margin, but not too expensive. So we can actually offer this to places like Southeast Asia, which is near where our company is located in Hong Kong. So I won't go into too much of that. We have partnerships with some leading multinationals that are interested in some of the work that we do. And we have already raised the first $1.5 million of our Series A at the end of last year, and now we're working on raising the additional 6. And this will basically be used for market rollout for our products. So we'll be focusing on US, Hong Kong, and ASEAN. It's about a $10 billion market size, and trying to expand into that, and we'll gain some clinical data that we can use to enter the next markets after that. So that is me. I hope I didn't go over time. If I did, I'm sorry. But I'd love to hear any questions or anything. So.
Thank you, Sloan.
Sure.
So now let's open it up to feedback from the panel.
I'll just keep screen sharing in case anyone wants to go back to a slide.
Okay, that's great. Who would like to start with giving feedback?
Well, I have a question, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
So Sloan, thank you so much. My mother has had 2 hip replacements, so I really understand the need for this solution. And I can tell you, it not just will increase the enjoyment of life, but there's an enormous amount of pain that she's had to learn to manage in the last, what will be the last phase of her life. And she's a very active woman of 87. So there's a lot to be done here. So thank you for working in this area. It's very important.
Well, thanks for sharing your story about that. Sorry to hear that. But, yeah.
It's okay. She's had 2 successful ones, but one was planned and one was accidental. The question I have for you, the slide I didn't see in the pitch, was your go-to-market strategy. So what is your distribution and how are you going to build the market for this?
Sure. I'm going to go to the slide that's the closest approximation. And then I'll talk about just briefly what for go-to-market for a company of our size, there is essentially an option of working with distributors that focus on bringing innovative orthopedic implants to like a smaller select group of hospitals that those distributors serve in different parts of the United States, for instance, or in like Singapore and some of the other areas. Essentially, these are teams that we know of previous success stories where they had taken like innovative devices and worked on the sales and marketing side to grow you to maybe like the first few $1 million of sales. And then essentially from there, you would either create a dedicated sales force if you take in more capital probably, or you try to do an exit. So basically it would be through these kind of boutique distributors, and there's several of them in each of the key markets.
Thank you. And that second question, no, please.
I just want to also add, if anybody that is in attendance has any questions that they would like to ask any of the panelists or any of the judging committee, please type them in the Q&A section and we will feed them into the event.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I just brought up the little window out of curiosity, but so we can.
Louise, did you have a second?
I'll hide it.
I do, but looks like let me not hog, please, Maureen.
Okay, well, I was going to say, well done as far as memorability and thesis sentence. So I come from, does the audience understand? And the problem is something that everyone can identify with, either personally or in family, as we just experienced. So that was really good. And the only recommendation I'd make is team, put it at the end, only because right away to understand, like I could give you a pitch now, thesis sentence, right? Not the detail,
right,
but it sticks in my head. So I think that's really good. The problem, what is it? The solution we have, you start with the mission and the fact that you have partnerships already, and totally agree with Louise about getting into a little bit more detail, even in a short amount of time, how your go-to-market strategy is, because that's where the money is going to go. So
that's right.
Yeah,
great. Thanks, Maureen.
Mm-hmm.
And then just to round it out, the other missing piece, which even though you only have 10 minutes, you need to do you did a nod to the competition in your chart, but I think you really need to be a little bit more specific about the actual competition.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go with my question. Exactly, Louise.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
To try to understand, Sloan, help us understand, what are the incumbents doing? Sure. Why are they not innovating in this direction? What are you doing uniquely that you can protect versus any one of those large players with existing brands and relationships and channels and so on?
And do you have any patents?
Oh, yeah, we do. We've spent a lot of time on it, actually.
I would put those all over your screen.
And the one thing about the competition, which is such a good point, the Gartner slide, I call that the Gartner slide.
It's the 4 quadrant. Yeah,
the quadrant that everyone makes their own. Yes, to talk about the competition, that is an excellent point. Because I was assuming stupidly, because you don't want assumption that you might be first to market. Of course, I would have asked you, but that is an excellent point on that slide, because you have the other people, on that quadrant slide.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So, yes. And I think that the challenge is always distilling the ridiculous amount of subtlety and depth of what, the relationship we have compared to them into something that can be snappy. So I would say that that's a weakness of this presentation. So I'll think about that.
Sloan, just an added sort of point, something which would have been helpful, particularly for me as someone who's like a layperson when it comes to this category, is just an understanding of your unit economics. I know at one point you sort of said that it's 40% cheaper to manufacture, but as someone who doesn't quite understand the space, I don't necessarily have any way of figuring out what that means. So I think that would just sort of give it the right level of depth.
So what would you want for a unit economics for?
What is the contribution margin?
COGS, contribution margin,
Sure. So then, okay.
Investors get excited when the contribution margin is above 50%.
Yeah, well, actually for our industry, it usually is. It's, and we are actually. So that's one of these, anyway, I shall consider this. Sure.
We have a couple of questions from the attendees. Robert Van Vark asks, are the strategic partnerships listed with the likes of Stryker and J&J a licensing arrangement for the IP? And would these be partners that are integrating this technology into their portfolios, or is it Lifespan's looking to distribute itself?
Sure. So basically, these are companies that we're actually helping them design their implants right now, because we have some technology that's for this area of elderly bone tissue that's unique to us. And this is it's a little bit difficult to describe essentially, I'd say right now, but essentially the way to look at it is that these would be companies where our product line would probably get more attention for them if we've generated sales. In the case of licensing for orthopedic, like just for our industry specifically, it's pretty rare that like a pre-sale implant would ever be licensed. But we have a simulation technology. I skipped it because it's a little difficult to talk about. If we run out of time, this would probably be the thing I wouldn't jump into. It's basically a tool we have to simulate soft bone, like to simulate elderly bone. So if you want to quickly get FDA approval, you can understand your own product better and then describe it to the FDA better. And this is something that's unique to our company. And this is the thing that we are actually providing to those partners. 4 out of the 5 top ones are doing work with us on this. This is in many ways our foot in the door for acquisition or licensing later on. They may end up acquiring our software that we've developed, which would be fine by me too.
Oh, yeah.
But the implants also are a possibility. It's kind of like, do they want the wine or do they want the vineyard? So, well, either one is okay.
Yeah.
So we have a few more questions in the chat, but I think they might have to be answered
later.
If you could answer them by typing the answer, maybe, Sloan.
Sure thing. Yeah, let's move on.
One question, though, I do think that's important maybe to add into this particular event is talking about how much of the company you're willing to, give for investment.
Well,
then we just have a minute, so very quick.
Okay, sure. Okay, this is a perfect kind of question that's, it both has conventional wisdom. I mean, there are many, many people who have gone through the process of creating different kinds of startups. And we really rely on our advisors. I mean, we rely on our own experiences too within the company. Some of us have been through this process before, but this is a case where there are just so many different kinds of experiences people have had. There's different pieces of conventional wisdom, like don't sell more than 25% by a certain stage of development of the company, try to sell a certain percent per round. But I think what it kind of comes down to is it very much depends on the nature of the beast, the nature of your company. So in
your case in particular, what are you?
Yeah, so willing is a different question because that presumes more things in the future, and I'd have to see. But I would say for this stage, myself and the founders still hold a very significant piece of the company, not out of any kind of greed per se, but mostly just to provide stability more than anything else. And then we can be kind of generous with how we use. So if we have a particularly good investor we want to bring in for some other reason, maybe they bring some other connection to us, we can part with some of our shares. So we usually keep a large amount in reserve, basically. And I think if we were to bring in a large institutional investor like a venture firm, they may not really appreciate that and would perhaps ask us to not do that. But I think in the beginning, as a founder, you need to maintain a lot of flexibility. So it's best if you have, angels that trust you, and you can show, why you deserve that trust by taking care of them if they need taken care of. And that's why having more stake in the early stages held by the founders is good. So that's all.
Thank you so much, Sloan. Let's move on to Rachel.
I'm sorry I didn't give you a cap table, but I probably shouldn't do that over a Zoom call. But yeah, anyway, that's all.
That's okay. Thank you for your answer. Great job.
Thank you.
And then if you could just answer maybe the other Q&As.
I sure will.
Type answer. And then now we can move on to Rachel. Would you like to share your screen?
Sure. All right. Good morning. I'm here to share about Wild Child Outdoors, and the logo was created by another RISD alum, Chaitra Bangalore. We are a relatively new organization, and our mission is to be a global online learning community for the arts, environment, and social justice. And our mantra is to be a place for you. And we started back in May of 2020. So the problem that we've identified is that a lot of students don't have access to high quality art and outdoor education, and that particularly during the pandemic, many people are stuck at home and there's a lack of community and creative outlets. And another issue is that topics of social justice are not incorporated into the mainstream education. So in terms of our target market, we are working with community organizations like after-school enrichment programs and other nonprofits, as well as individuals that fall into three groups of parents with young children, teens, and retired adults. And the global online education market is projected to be worth over $300 billion in the coming few years. So our solution is to create really high quality, hands-on, accessible arts and outdoor classes in both asynchronous and synchronous variations. So that means live on Zoom or through pre-recorded video that incorporate global perspectives. And these are some infographics also created by a RISD alum, Mudita Pazari. And you can see in the summer we hosted 11 courses with 59 students. And this is an age histogram from the summer that shows the courses offered and the age range. We had students ages 3 to 73 participating. And we ran a fall program with 11 courses and 45 students. And so our business model is to offer seasonal courses and workshops with a sliding scale tuition, again, thinking about that accessibility, and to establish partnerships with other organizations to work with larger groups of students. And we have a really high teacher compensation, which depending on the program is 78 to 80% of the tuition we receive. One statistic that we're super proud about is that 40% of our fall and summer students received scholarships, and that we have been able to expand our global learning community to include 5 countries and 19 states across our country. This is a sampling of some of the winter workshops that are underway right now this winter, as well as a selection of some of the online courses that we've offered which range from movement to poetry to fermentation, including a ukulele class that's being taught by a teacher who grew up in Hawaii, lives in San Francisco, and is teaching refugee students in Lewiston, Maine. So that's kind of a neat example of what can happen during this strange period. And here are some of our partners, including Mass Audubon, the Stepping Stone Foundation in Boston, and a relatively recent partnership with the Lewiston Public Schools. Here are a few testimonials that just speak to how virtual learning can be fun and maybe even support learning that's happening in school, and that we were able to really create a sense of community and kinship even virtually. Some of our marketing strategies include social media, alumni networks, and of course, word of mouth. Our team has been a lot of fun to create. Folks are all over the country and world, as well as a larger group of educators that have come together to offer really high quality programming. Part of what makes our offering unique and different from places like OutSchool or Khan Academy is that our courses are really unusual. They all have a social justice mission, and they're affordable, accessible, and scalable. So what would we do with an investment of $100K? We're really excited to launch a stronger advertisement campaign to reach more folks, ideally get some compensation at the leadership level, and create a mobile studio and pop-up Art in the Park event series. Thank you so much. I'm going to drop a short video in the chat if anyone is interested in learning more.
Thank you so much, Rachel. That was lovely. Who would like to go first in giving some feedback? And again, anyone from any of the attendees, if you have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A, for whether it's for Rachel or even for the panelists too. Thank you.
Louise, yeah, please go forward.
I seem to be always enthusiastically first. I apologize, but I'll step back, I promise. I love this. I love this because I have now 5 grandchildren and they can all use it. So they're all going to first get an email. But what you haven't talked about in this, I mean, really nice job. What I love about what you've done is the simple graphics. The clear communication is outstanding. What is missing for me as an investor looking at this, you say you need 100,000, but what does that 100,000 accomplish in terms of a business? Does it get you to a sustainable break-even cash flow positive, or where does it get you? Where are you going with the business? You have a very low margin because you're trying to pay the teachers. That I understand. But is there a tiered strategy possible for different markets on a affordable basis that might fund the lower markets? There could be other, you know, what's the big picture here? Where are you heading?
Yeah, that's an interesting, Maureen, so whoever is helping you on the business side, these questions are really good ones to embed, because the why, the inspiration, everybody identifying with it. Again, you touch people, but the audience, because Aristotle says that's seek understanding, what does the audience want to know? It's the business viability of this mission you have. So the answers to these questions, maybe you already have them, and if you don't, somebody who is your advocate to get that embedded into the presentation.
And if you don't, I'll help you.
If you don't.
Wonderful.
One of the things I wanted to say about, talking about how much you should give away, all that kind of stuff. Anybody who gives you money, and I think you will agree, all will agree with this, has to be somebody that believes in what you're doing too, because there will be good times and there will be bad times. And too often the founder is left high and dry when things get Chidianik. So the belief in to help you with it, as well as want to give you the money. Does the panel agree with that? Founder, advocate, investor people, especially in the beginning.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to see if you guys wanted to contribute some.
Oh, no, of course. Well, first of all, very, very interesting idea. I've actually made quite a few education tech investments over the years, and I think more and more companies are sort of thinking about what next. And I think art, extracurricular activities, huge market, huge opportunity. To that extent, I think what would make the pitch a little bit stronger is, you've done sort of the overall market sizing, which is the market size of education overall globally. But I would love to get a sense of, specifically for this segment, specifically for the kind of work you guys are doing, what could the market size be? Because it'll probably be a sliver of that overall market. I think that would be helpful. And then additionally, I think it would be great to just get a sense of how much of these courses really cost. Because I think that's just one thing that's missing so far. What does this cost versus, I know what it costs versus say a class on YouTube or anything that's free, but what does this cost versus an offline class or any of your competitors? I think that would just sort of make it a little bit stronger, but very interesting for sure.
Hey, Rachel. Yeah, so I echo a couple of things I think I've heard, but I think the starting point a little bit is, what do you all want to achieve? What's your ambition? What's your goal for this, right? To the point of, who do you want to bring in with you on this ride, and making sure that they're aligned on it? What do you want to achieve, right? Which relates to me is this a for-profit business? Is this a B Corp? Is this a nonprofit? Like, what is it that is the ultimate ambition? Because I could see this fitting in any one of those buckets very effectively, but it really depends on what's the priority. So that I'd love to hear, kind of more as an investor to understand, is it a fit for the interest? I think on the business itself, the other thing that as you continue to grow, you might want to sort of evaluate is, what part of this do you all enjoy and feel like you are better than everybody else at, right? Because, you could take the entire responsibility of building up the content with the teachers and managing that and finding the customers and creating the distribution channel and all of those pieces. But maybe what you decide is actually what you love to do is create the content and find the great teachers. And then you use somebody else's channel to deliver those, right? Mm-hmm. And so you're a content creation house, actually, not doing all of the steps of the chain, if that makes sense. But it really, I think, all boils down to you've got the this in mind, but like, what do you want to do, and what do you love about this, and what do you want to continue doing 100 times versus maybe not that interested in, or don't feel like you're going to be the best at in the world. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. I'm already writing down a whole bunch of notes. This is super helpful.
We have another 3 minutes for Rachel's.
We do have one question in the chat from Kelly Gardner, who is wondering how the business scales and what effect the end of the pandemic will have on this kind of program.
An interesting question.
Yeah, I mean, it is really interesting to think about scale, which in some ways seems like the goal of every business. And there has been something really special about still having small personal classes and relationships with all the teachers. So, there's sort of the profit aspect and then the education connection and sense of community, and sort of at what point those might diverge. And in terms of post-pandemic, I think, what has been sort of unique about our journey is we were created in response to the pandemic. So we weren't trying to bring an existing project and make it virtual. We were already starting in the virtual space as a group of teachers who went online last spring and learned a lot and saw some creative opportunities. And so I think we're still kind of in the visioning process of what this could look like on the other side, and perhaps could be sort of a hybrid model because you can connect people from all different places really easily online. And of course, everyone is zoomed out and craving those in-person connections and kind of place-based experiences. So I think potentially having two paths within the organization could make a lot of sense. Oh, I have a team member texting me saying, and the arts are being cut. So yeah, arts education has been cut tremendously during the pandemic, and this could be a really affordable way for a public school system, for example, to bring in a really high quality arts department at a lower rate. So thanks, John, for that reminder.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I see Louise want to add something.
Yeah, I actually think I just want to commend my fellow panelists. The social enterprise can be either for-profit or not-for-profit. And I would encourage you to explore those two perspectives as part of your visioning.
There's also a third. Have you run into this profit for good?
Yes.
Yeah, which I think is an interesting way of looking at it too, because who said profit was bad as long as it's for good?
I think they have a public benefit corporation now, but that's more of a marketing thing. So I don't know. Anyway, but it really comes down to what, I'm sorry, my colleague on the panel, and I apologize, names are terrible with me, but he said, what do you want? Where are you heading? That's the first question.
It's the Ludwig's
Yeah,
comment.
I mean, it's, oh, sorry.
This is a great
so-
path.
You know, companies are just like design. They're a design process. You design companies based on the goals you have.
Yeah, I mean, I think our first goal was to become sustainable, and we're really excited within our first year that we will not have a deficit and we have a small profit. So I think that in and of itself feels like a great accomplishment, especially for like a first-time business. And right now I'm in my elementary school art classroom. So that is my training and field of expertise. And so I've been blessed to work with a lot of wonderful people and learn a ton. And for sure, kind of the marketing outreach piece has been the hardest to navigate. We've had some kind of great small donations from friends and family and folks who really believe in the mission. And it's really just been very special to kind of get this project off the ground, launched. You know, it exists. We've worked with hundreds of students at this point and teachers around the world, including several RISD alums. So that's been really fun to collaborate in that space. And, you know, I think perhaps the idea of focusing on being creative content makers and having someone who we partner with who could help with the distribution could be really successful. And right now we're kind of occupying this social entrepreneurship space and have thought a little bit about sort of what makes sense in terms of the organizational model. Right now we're actually registered as an LLC in Massachusetts. So kind of one of our advisors made the comparison that we've gone from infancy to sort of toddlerhood. And so we're in the sort of maybe terrible twos space of figuring out what comes next.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Rachel.
I think we need to move on to John.
Yeah, thank you all so much.
Really good. Very good.
Thank you. And Rachel also just shared a video in the chat for anybody that is interested in checking out more about Wild Child Outdoors. John, would you like to share your slides now?
Sure. All right. All right, coming through?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, great. Thank you. So I'm, as you know, John Chidianik, and I'm the CEO of Blue Space. Our mission is to unlock the human contribution and potential by connecting talent with demand inside of organizations. We started out in the fall of 2019, and so far we've been self-funded through some existing customers, and we are pre-market in the space that we're going into and what we'll be talking about today. So we think that that there is just a vast amount of untapped potential that is laying dormant inside of companies. So we are developing an internal talent marketplace platform, and that helps companies to move from potentially traditional structures or less efficient matrix structures to a more dynamic use of their talent. And we do this by seamlessly matching employees' skills, experience, and availability with the projects that they would be a good fit for. So it's no secret that small businesses are struggling to adapt to some changing economic conditions. The traditional organizations kind of prevent them from maximizing the value of that their employees can deliver, and where we play in kind of the smaller size companies, their limited HR departments are just not equipped to serve the hiring manager's needs, and so employees get hired for a job, but they may have years of experience and skills in other areas. The company just there's no place for that information to live and to grow, and so the company has no way to know about, let alone put those skills and experience to good use. So in the end, you have underutilized and disconnected talent that are more susceptible to becoming disengaged, resulting in a vast amount of capacity of talent going underutilized and even compromised. So the solution that's needed is a portal that seamlessly connects the supply of talent with the demand for time, skills, and experience across the traditional silos. In this solution, managers have immediate access to employees' in-demand skills and excess capacity. The talent get matched with the opportunities that allow them to contribute, feel valued, and be more engaged. And the business saves money by being able to use their existing talent instead of hiring contractors, and ultimately reducing turnover. Overall, this increases operational efficiency. The business gains the ability to access this data and build a store of data that on employees that can be accessed long after those people maybe leave the company. Their experience remains with the company, the work they've done remains with the company, the networks that they create remain with the company. So we are competing in this growing talent management software market. Last year, it was estimated to be about $44 billion. And so there are other players in the space, such as Gloat, Hitch, and quite a few others. Our focus is on the smaller HR limited organizations. And with that focus, we think that there is an opportunity to capture about $2 billion of market. So the core functionality is enabled by two interlinked capabilities: the employee profiles, which are the robust combination of their background, their skills, a multimedia portfolio, the project history, or internal resume that they've developed while they've been with the company, and their availability. And then staffing projects, where our recommendations for each role. The matched candidates are recommended to the manager, and the talent are notified of the opportunities that match their skills and interests. The backbone of our talent technology, of our product, is in production right now. It's serving communities in excess of 50,000 members, over 100,000 overall. And our Talent Cloud beta product is now ready to deploy, and we are looking for companies and organizations to participate in our Agile 1 pilot program. Our business model is a typical SaaS-based subscription, and so we're going to land and expand. We currently deploy custom enterprise solutions integrated where needed, customized where needed, but we have later this year a plan to roll out a self-serve option for at a lower price point. And ultimately, there's a lot of room to grow, offering integrations with their productivity tools, time tracking, project management, communications. So being able to offer a manager the ability to find someone with skills directly within Slack or Microsoft Teams, and then reach out to that person is a really powerful way that we see that this tool being used. And then as time goes on, all this data becomes a rich data store where they can leverage that data to generate insights and do better management and strategic talent planning. So that is it for us for Blue Space, and thank you very much. We're very excited for the potential to help companies to tap their dormant talent potential. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. Who would like to go first with feedback?
Oh, Louise, go for it.
Why not? You know, I'm just going to do third time the charm here.
Okay, things go in threes. You can start.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Maureen. Well, thank you, John. So I have so much to talk to you about on this one. Because first of all, matching is, I've built 2 companies based on matching. The concept. So I have a lot of questions about your technology. I have a lot of questions about your potential for expansion. And I have a lot of blue sky visioning questions for you. But I want to ask the same question I asked the previous presenter. Where are you going? And what are your goals?
Right. So where we're going is, where we're going is, we want to be the place where that kind of facilitates the free flow of skills, experience, and time within organizations. So goals are, to just get as many companies using the product, getting out there and just learning and refining the product. There's a fair amount that we don't know yet, and getting it into, and that's what our pilot program is sort of focused on, getting it into the hands of as many companies as we can, and learning, leveraging that data, that user data, and learning from these organizations, where we can improve the product.
So I think you've answered the question for a product, but you haven't answered the question for yourself or a business. So what I'm asking you is, where are you heading, and where are you wanting your company to head? What is your goal for your business?
I think goal for the business is that we create something that is valuable as an add-on to a larger company's portfolio of products, and where we can be, have an exit and be acquired into the, where our product can be sold into the channels that of a larger organization, like that does provides other HR functions.
And for yourself?
For me personally, I love software. I want to continue to build software that makes life better for people. So.
The interesting thing that you have right now, the word capacity is something that, and the focus that you have is a really good one. it's the best time to really work on this because capacity is such a problem. Some research is showing that there's like 30% of high performing team people that are maxing out and they're doing too many things. So there's something about this that resonates with the time, not just overarching. So something about the time. One of the things with the presentation to make it a little bit more investor thing, like the Gartner slide, there are people here that would love to help you with that because you really are solving a bizarre problem for the backbone of the global economy, which is small businesses, and they don't have some of the programs. And it's a more holistic approach that I think, especially with the newer workforce, is going to be very appreciated, both for for the person, as well as the collective intelligence of the organization. I think you're onto something.
All right, thank you.
Hey, John. So thanks for the presentation and a little bit of an advantage since I've spoken a little bit in the past, but I guess a couple of things come to mind in this context. So, I generally, I love the idea that you are sort of not had outside funding yet, and you've kind of built up a product and you've got some, some customers going and you're learning. And as long as you can possibly go that way, as I think I've shared with you before, do it, right? The further you get along in that track, the more you learn, the more customers you have, the better off you're going to be from a fundraising perspective. And frankly, as we probably also spoke, I also, one of my generic comments is not everybody should go get funding, right? If you can build this business at a reasonable pace without too much fear of getting, clobbered by somebody else in the market, please do it, because it's going to be better for you. It's going to be better for your team. I mean, in some respects. Of course, if there are fears or if there's opportunity that you can't touch on your own financing, then yes, then go get outside financing, right? But just, I think too few people contemplate that as one of the really good options that are out there, and sometimes they just don't have it, right? The other, thought, just looking at the materials again, is I wonder if, the segment of the size of company that you're looking at makes a lot of sense, because it's certainly with Gloat and Hitch playing a little bit higher. But even within that segment, I wonder if you could start with a particular either industry vertical where there's a unique set of problems that you can just be really, really good at solving for, or a horizontal function that you can do across multiple industries to help you target, right? To avoid wasting time having 50 different conversations with 50 different needs, and pushing your product around too much while you sort of build. And then the last comment, I guess, is just is really a question, and then unfortunately I'll have to drop because I do have another scheduled event. But is that 100,000 users, right? What is that? Help us understand what that means. Are those paying customers? Are those non-paying customers? What does it mean for them to be users? And then I'll stop.
Thank you, Ludwig.
Yeah.
So John, great idea. I've worked at a company, a very large company, about 3,000 people, and I can probably tell you that at least 10 to 15% of them felt underutilized at some point of time. And moving from one department to the other, it was never easy. So there's always something cool happening in some other part of the company that they could just never find exposure to, and they couldn't figure out a way to make that happen. So I think it's definitely useful. I think to Ludwig's point, I'd love to get a sense of like your definition of SMB, because I feel like SMB could mean a lot of different things for different people. So, what's the size of the organization according to you where this starts becoming meaningful? Smaller, very small organizations, I can see how it wouldn't work, but I would love to know what that sweet spot is for you. And then I think additionally, and this is sort of related, would be good to get, I know it's very early and you're still building out the product, but just early thoughts on how you're thinking about marketing and distribution. Is this a sales heavy business? Are you going to do some product led growth? And I think those two things are related.
Yeah. So this is where we, I sort of slid past this a little bit quickly, but we think that 200 to 250 to 500 employees is kind of our sweet spot. It can it does depend in some respects. It can be on the lower end or even below 250 if the company employs a highly remote workforce, or they're really spread out, where employees just don't have the opportunity to connect and know, as people join the company. And as far as verticals, yeah, I mean, I think service-based businesses, professional services is one vertical that, I mean, there are obviously lots of different flavors across that. From financial services, consulting, things like that. So we are trying to figure out, where if there is one of those verticals that we can really focus on. And then last thing is, sorry, and I lost my train of thought on that, but Louise, I think I saw you raise your hand. Did you have a
Well,
thought?
it's actually interesting what you're saying, because I think there are two opportunities you have immediately, given what you just said. One is to open this up for professional services individuals who are wanting to make their talent available to these SMBs. And there are large networks of those through places like Vistage, YPO. These are clusters of large networks of thousands of 250 to 500 employee companies, the CEOs of them, the owners of them. So that's one thing I'm thinking. The other is to do cross-fertilization across businesses, because I think what's really interesting, I think what Maureen said that was so stunning was realizing that this is a time where maybe we're redefining, do you work for a company or do you make yourself available in slices for different companies? And you could be the person that helps that become possible for many, many companies. Yeah. You could be the glue that lets us kind of have a matrix across the planet.
Right. I love that.
Really interesting. I might even be a customer.
All right.
So I mean, I would be a customer, for example. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Because I'm wanting to connect with people that can use my talent, which is pretty narrow, but it will help a lot of people.
Just to point, I think what would be great, and I think there are a lot of like cultural tailwinds that are helping this business, like your specific business, from like how millennials like to work, how Gen Z will potentially like to work, remote workspaces. I almost feel like it'd be nice to have one slide, which is sort of, this is how this is how work is going to change in 5 years or in 10 years.
Exactly.
And this is why we become relevant. I think it'd be good to just capture something.
Yeah. But I'm going to go back to the goals and just beat you up on that, John, a little bit. I'm doing this partly for the audience, because again, you need to design your future. You need to begin with where you personally, if what you're saying is you want to build this big enough that someone pays attention, that they acquire you, and you keep building software, that's definitely something you can do. I don't know. There are many possibilities.
Yep. All right.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, Maureen. Yeah.
No, I'm just going to say, I'm going to find you. All three of you have such beautiful ideas. It's been such a pleasure to listen to the creativity. So cool. And I don't know how, maybe the panel how we can help or what is the next step, but congratulations, and the world needs you. So thumbs up.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Good job to the organizers, finding amazing presentations and amazing entrepreneurs.
Thank you.
This is so much fun, and fun is efficient, productive, and hopefully helping more successful to cool people.
We do have one question. John, is from Jordan, that would the data that you generate and collect feed into performance reviews and compensation, and is that good or bad?
Right. So great question. So the way we think about this is, the data can certainly be could be used to for performance reviews, and we think that that's overall this is a good thing, because one of the things that many people are very good at what they do, but they're not as good at communicating the value of what they do and how they do it. And if and with a tool like this, the way that and it, he wasn't able to go into detail about how our engagements, the engagements feature of the product works, of the profile works, is someone is going to go through their months and years with a company, and that they will have a thorough, robust record of all the projects that they've worked on. And so, when coming time for your performance review, it's easy to then, for the manager or the employee to then kind of come together, okay, and do a thorough critique of the work that was done over the year with a with contemporaneous record of this was the work, and then be able to reflect on that and talk about, okay, this really worked out. You did this, back in May. It worked out really well. What would you do differently next year? And so you have this really rich store of data that can be leveraged for those performance reviews.
Thank you so much, John. That was excellent.
Oh, I was just going to say, I have to go. There's people screaming at me, but I wanted to thank you so much for letting me be part of this. And we'll get in touch with you on how to follow up or to be of more help. Would love to be involved.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That would be awesome. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I just wanted to say to everyone of the attendees that if you are interested in getting involved in joining either the Founders and Entrepreneurs Affinity Group or volunteering for any organized events with the Venture Committee, or if you want to pitch or judge for the next pitch panel event, you can contact the RISD Alumni Network through the alumni@risd.edu and just tell us how you would like to be involved. We're going to work on putting together a application form for the next pitch event to collect information. So if you're interested in being involved, please reach out, and we're so excited to have everybody that presented and everybody that was able to judge. This is a great event.
Yeah, I want to say also thank you, everyone. And this is to make this first RISD pitch event under Venture Committee and the RISD Founders and Entrepreneurs Affinity Group happen. And thank you, Rachel, for joining me to lead this Venture Committee together. And we would love to hear everyone's feedback. What do you like the event and how we can make it better the next one. And also thank you so much for Daniel, Chris from Alumni Relations Office who support us and to make this possible. And we're so excited to work together to make an impact for our community. And so great. So Daniel said, Daniel, thanks to us all, and I'm sure we'll be in touch and follow up. So, and also thank you so much to our audience. We'd love to hear your feedback as well to keep the fire ongoing and make it bigger and bigger.